My sister-in-law packed my things without warning. But the call I received afterwards changed everything. They say marriage is a partnership, and ours always was. Until his family decided it wasn't anymore. My name is Vera, I'm 35 years old, and I live in Bastion. For the last 5 years, I've built my own fashion brand from the ground up. It all started with a few sketches on my kitchen table and grew into a company with 30 employees, national distribution, and quarterly mentions in New England South. I work long hours, yes, but I love what I do. My husband Jason, also 35, used to be a pastry chef. He's a brilliant, kind man with a calm voice, but a few years ago, he was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease that prevented him from continuing to work full-time. So, we made a decision. I would focus on the business, and he would take care of the house. He cooked, cleaned, and managed every little daily detail that most people tend to overlook. And it worked. We lived in a luxury 4-bedroom apartment in a high-rise in the South End. Immense floor-to-ceiling windows, polished hardwood floors, a dream kitchen. The kind of place we had only dreamed of before. The rent, $5,300 a month, all paid by me. The lease was in my name, the decor, the furniture, every single piece was chosen and paid for by me. And yet, none of that seemed to matter the day she showed up. Lindsay, Jason's older sister, 43 years old, unemployed, allergic to any form of responsibility, and convinced the universe owed her a comfortable life simply for existing. She had bounced from man to man, job to job, city to city. She always ended up back at her parents' house in Guster, with an iced coffee in one hand and a new excuse at the ready. I hadn't seen her in over a year. Then, on a rainy Friday afternoon, she appeared at our door with 2 rolling suitcases and a smug little smile. "Hello, little brother," she chirped, pushing Jason aside as if the home were hers. "Hope you don't mind. I just need a soft place to land." Jason was frozen, not knowing what to say. I was too, with the keys still in my hand. "Hi, Lindsay," I managed to reply. "What brings you to Boston?" "Oh, you know. Men, mistakes, the usual," she said, dropping onto the sofa. She kicked off her boots and added, "It'll just be a few days. I promise." It wasn't a few days. By the second week, she had fully moved in. She took over the guest room, started ordering groceries to our address using my Prime account, and acted as if she were doing us a favor with her mere presence. "It must be so nice," she commented one morning, watching me leave with my laptop under my arm, "to be the one bringing in the money while your husband folds towels." I turned to Jason. He just looked down. Little by little, Lindsay started changing everything. She moved the furniture, brought in trinkets from discount stores that clashed with every corner of our decor. One day, I came home from work to find the guest bathroom painted lavender. "You're welcome," she said proudly. The worst part was, Jason didn't stop her. "I don't want to start a conflict," he whispered to me. "She's going through a tough time. Let her get settled. It's temporary." But nothing in Lindsay's life was temporary. By the 3rd week, she started with her insinuations about family unity. "You know," she said one morning, a glass of wine in her hand at 11 a.m., "this apartment would be perfect for Mom and Dad. It has an elevator, extra rooms. And you two could move into a cozy 2-bedroom in Dorchester. A fresh start." I laughed in disbelief. "Are you joking, right?" She tilted her head. "Vera, this place is huge. You don't need this much space. And Mom says she's tired of the suburbs." I didn't answer. Jason put a hand to his forehead and retreated into the kitchen. The final straw came the day I returned home early. I opened the door and found boxes piled up in the living room. My boxes. My clothes, my shoes, my scarves. Everything piled up, as if someone had hired a moving company without my consent. Jason was standing by the sofa, holding one of my heels as if it were a weapon. Lindsay was reclining in the armchair, sipping Chardonnay and swiping through her phone. "Hey," she said without even looking at me. "I thought I'd help you start packing. Mom and Dad are moving in next weekend. We need to make space." I stood frozen. "What?" I mumbled. She finally looked up. "Well, obviously they'll need the master bedroom. They're not going to sleep in that tiny guest room. Come on, they're over 60. Are you serious? You're moving them in here?" She smiled smugly. "Not exactly moving in. Let's call it a transition. I told them they could start bringing things over this weekend. Oh, and I ordered a deep cleaning service for your office. So we can turn it into Dad's study." "My office," I said slowly. "Where I run my company." Jason tried to intervene, but Lindsay cut him off. "You'll find another place, maybe a co-working space. You're resourceful, you'll figure it out." I looked at her. Then I looked at Jason, whose face was as pale as a ghost. "You're kicking me out of my own home," I whispered. Lindsay rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic. It's not your house, it's a rental. Calm down." I felt the blood pound in my temples. I walked to the bedroom. There were more boxes, half the closet empty, the photos on the nightstand gone. When I came back, Jason was sitting on the arm of the sofa, his hands trembling. I tried to stop her, he murmured. "She packed my things," I said, breathless. "I didn't know what to do," he whispered. Lindsay stood up and stretched triumphantly. "I promised Mom I'd give her a FaceTime tour tomorrow. She's so excited. She says this place is perfect. Oh, and the building manager already gave me a visitor's pass, so it's practically official." She walked over, smiling like a cat that just caught its prey. "You're strong, Vera. You'll land on your feet. Think of this as a reset. You've been living a little above your means, don't you think?" I looked at her and I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I walked to the hall closet, pulled out a red folder, and opened it. It was the original lease agreement. My name, my terms, my initials on every page. Lindsay let out a mocking laugh. "Please, you think a little paperwork is going to scare me?" I snapped the folder shut and smiled. "No," I said, "but I think the consequences will." Jason's head shot up. Lindsay's smile faltered. "You want the apartment?" I asked. "Keep it." I walked to the coat rack, took my keys, and left them on the coffee table. "Just don't forget to pay next month's rent." "You're leaving," she said, bewildered. I turned toward the door. "I'm making space." "It's what you wanted, isn't it?" Jason stood up. "Vera, wait." But I was already out the door, one step ahead of the storm. I had no intention of stopping. That night, Jason called me 5 times. I didn't answer. I spent the night in a downtown hotel, and the next day I moved into my parents' house in Cambridge. I hadn't lived there since college, but when I showed up with my laptop and a small suitcase, my mother just said, "Your room is still clean. I'll make you some tea." No interrogations, no reproaches, just calm, comfort, and a clear mind. The next morning, while sipping coffee on the porch, I logged into the building's portal and submitted a formal 30-day notice of termination of the lease. Technically, I didn't have to wait. I was the sole leaseholder, with no subletting clauses and no protection for roommates, but I wanted to give them time. Time to settle in, to believe they had won, to unpack their delusions. Because I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, my phone vibrated with a message from the building manager. "Hi Vera. Just confirming you will be vacating the apartment at the end of the month. There are 3 new individuals living in the unit. Should I expect their names for the new lease?" I smiled and replied, "There will be no transfer." I will be handing over the keys and terminating the lease on the unit entirely. And so the clock started ticking. That night, Jason wrote to me again. I didn't agree with any of this. I froze. I panicked. I just looked at the screen and smiled. Can we please talk? He asked. We met on neutral ground, a coffee shop in the South End. He looked exhausted, pale, thinner. His hands trembled slightly as he held his cup. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have stopped her, but you know how she is. She talks non-stop and Mom always listens to her. I didn't know how to say no. You didn't even try, I replied. He nodded, his eyes wet. You left as if everything was over. No, she was the one who ended everything, I said, holding back my rage. And you just stood there watching while she told me my own home didn't belong to me. Jason closed his eyes. I never said that. You didn't have to, I retorted. He fell silent. Then I leaned toward him. I'm terminating the lease at the end of the month. You have until then. His eyes widened in surprise. You're canceling it? Yes. But Lindsay thinks I know what Lindsay thinks. Let her think it. Back at the apartment, everything spiraled. Lindsay hosted a welcome brunch for her parents that weekend. Neighbors later said it was loud, tacky, and full of phrases like, we'll renovate this hallway, and I've always wanted a reading nook here. Narcissists in nesting mode. Someone even took a photo of Lindsay flanked by her parents, posing on the balcony with wine glasses and satisfied smiles. It ended up on Instagram with the caption, starting our new chapter. Boston finally feels like home. I saved the screenshot. I knew what was coming next. Jason and I barely spoke during those weeks, but I knew he was suffering. A former employee of mine, who still lived in the building, kept me informed. She told me the parents had officially moved in, that Lindsay had taken the master suite and relegated Jason to the smallest guest room. She had even turned my old office into a yoga studio, though she had never done yoga in her life. She says it's for the vibes, my friend wrote. I let her do it. I let them believe I had given up. I allowed them to decorate, to pose for photos, to brag. A few days before the end of the month, I called the building manager. Maintenance will need to do a full inspection. The apartment will be vacated on Friday. And the others? He asked cautiously. There will be no others. Friday arrived. At 8:14 a.m., my phone rang. It was her. What the hell is going on? She exploded without even a greeting. I took a sip of my tea. Good morning to you too. The building manager says we have to vacate, that the leaseholder has cancelled it. That's right. You can't do that. I already did. 2 weeks ago. Her voice shrieked through the speaker. You have to fix this. We live here. No, I replied calmly. You took over the place. The lease was always in my name, but the furniture is mine. Jason didn't sign anything. There was a long silence, followed by a shaky breath. Do you know how much it would cost to get another place like this? About $5,300 a month, I said. If you can even find one. Lindsay's voice broke. We sold the house. Mom and Dad bet everything on this move. I closed my eyes. Then you should have asked before stealing someone else's home. But you left. No, I replied. I just let you dig your own grave. I heard sobbing in the background, then the frantic voices of her parents. Something about real estate scams and false promises. But she said it was hers, her mother screamed. Lindsay got back on the line. Jason knew. He didn't stop it, nor did he write the check, I answered. Silence again. So what are we supposed to do now? She asked through tears. I let the silence stretch. You can always try that yoga studio you built, I said, and hung up. I didn't go back to the apartment. I didn't have to. A neighbor, a woman I barely knew who had once complimented my shoes in the elevator, sent me a video. In it, Lindsay was screaming at the building manager in the hallway. Her mother was sitting on a step, red-faced and sweating, clutching a plant like it was a wounded pet. Her father was pacing in circles, asking where his things would go. And Jason. Jason stood off to the side, hands in his jacket pockets, not saying a single word. The caption on the video read, "And to think I thought Boston was expensive just for the views." I watched it once, saved it, and then deleted it. Closure doesn't always come with a bang, sometimes it's just a silent click on a closed folder. That weekend, my parents and I helped Jason move into the guest house behind theirs. Yes, Jason. He called me 2 days after the eviction notice arrived. He didn't beg. His voice was soft, restrained. "I made a mistake," he told me. "I let them speak for me." "And you didn't speak for me at all," I replied. He didn't argue. "I don't deserve to come back," he added. I paused. "No," I said finally. "You don't. But I still love you," he whispered, "and I'll prove it to you, even if I have to start from the garden shed." So we started small. He stayed out back. We had dinner together on the porch. I gave him space. He respected it. His health was still inconsistent, but he started cooking again, just for us. No expectations, no promises, just presence. Meanwhile, Lindsay unraveled. According to building gossip, she tried to trick the manager into giving her a new lease. She said she would take over the apartment and pay more than anyone else. Then she found out the rent was over $5,000 a month. She panicked. She tried to get her parents to co-sign, but they had already sold their house to move in with her, remember? The problem was, all that money was already gone. Moving expenses, furniture, boastful social media posts, new outfits for her urban transformation, and not a dollar saved. When the lease wasn't renewed and the eviction window closed, they had nowhere to go, not even a motel. A little while later, another message came to me. A photo. Lindsay, in a work apron, behind the counter of a 24-hour diner near South Station. Her mother sat in a corner booth, eating hash browns. Her father was mopping the floor. The caption read, "Looks like the city didn't welcome them as they expected." I didn't laugh. I didn't smile. I simply closed my laptop. Sometimes the universe does the work for you. A month later, Jason moved out of the guest house and into a small rental 2 blocks away. He insisted on paying for it himself with a small inheritance he'd been saving. "I need to prove I'm not someone who needs to be taken care of," he told me. "I don't want to be your shadow." He wasn't asking to come back, he was asking to grow. And in a way, I was too. We started therapy, separately at first, and then, over time, together. We didn't call it reconciliation, we called it rebuilding. And little by little, brick by brick, emotionally speaking, we started over on solid ground. As for the apartment, I let it go. The space was beautiful, but the energy was contaminated. I used my work bonus to make a down payment on a light-filled condo in Beacon Hill. Smaller, quieter. Mine. I furnished it slowly. Jason helped hang a picture. He didn't try to unpack anything else. Months later, I ran into Lindsay by chance. I was leaving a fabric store near the station. She was coming out of a payday loan place 2 doors down. She didn't see me at first, but when she did, her face froze. I gave her a polite smile. She said nothing. She just turned and kept walking, her heels worn down, her purse frayed at the seams. And in that moment, I didn't feel triumph. I felt that it was all over completely, profoundly. At peace. That night, Jason came over for dinner. I served roasted squash and honey-glazed salmon. He brought wine. "You're quiet," he said. I nodded. I saw her today. He didn't ask who. He didn't need to. Did you speak to her? He asked after a moment. No. But for the first time, I didn't want to. Jason took my hand. You know, he murmured, I still think about when she called you a freeloader. I laughed. How ironic. I was paying all the bills while she was draining her parents' retirement fund. She thought she had won, he said. She wasn't even playing the game, I replied. She just stole the scoreboard. We were silent for a long time. Then I leaned back and said, people think power is about controlling things, about possessing them. But real power is knowing when to walk away and let the trap snap shut behind you.